What's going on, everybody? This is Event Marketing Redefined. I am your host, Matt Kleinrock. And today I have with me Mollie Stahl. She is a senior account executive here at Rockway Exhibits and Events, my company. And we are sitting down to break down a sponsorship brand activation. Just like we did a couple of weeks ago, we did one on Gymshark. And essentially, we're doing this so that you can take these breakdowns, understand why these brand activations were successful, and take nuggets and applications from them and get inspiration from them so you can go create your own brand activations, find your own sponsorships, and put on successful activations for your customers. Mollie, welcome. Thanks for being here again. Thanks for doing this twice now.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Number 3, let's go.
Number 3. Yeah, I'm stoked. So this is a cool one. Let me set this up for everybody. So today what we're talking about American Express. Everybody knows American Express. They sponsored and created activations at the men's and women's tennis US Open. It's actually still going on. It's on this week. For those who don't know, the men's and women's US Open is in Queens, New York. It's at the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. It's a huge tennis facility. American Express has been a sponsor of the US Open since the late 70s. So quite some time. Yeah, been a sponsor a long time. It must do something good for them in this case. So what I want to do in true essence, like we're starting this is, again, we want you to be able to take ideas and take concepts and take application and apply them to your own. So let me break down sort of how this was a large sponsorship and a large activation. So there's 4 pieces. 1, a fan experience center on site. 2, they had 2 separate lounges that were created for cardhold members. 3, they created court access, tennis court access for their members throughout New York City. And 4 is that they partnered with Break the Love. You can look them up. I believe it's breakthelove.com, but you can look up what Break the Love is. It's kind of like an initiative for tennis. It connects people. You can set reservations and you can meet people, get in leagues, and you can be a part of a tennis community. So those are the 4 facets of this. I found on AMEX's website, I was doing a little bit of digging about their partnership with the US Open and just kind of interested in it. And I saw this little nugget about them in the US Open, and AMEX said that, quote, elevating fan experience and providing unique exclusive benefits to our card members. Thought that was really cool, right? Elevating fan experience. So like the fan is obviously their customer, they're saying here, right? A good chunk of them. And providing unique exclusive benefits to its card members. What a great, we're always looking for a why on this show. We talk about it all the time. Why? Like, why are you doing something? That sounds like a why to me. You know, again, I don't know. I'm not talking to anybody in AMEX, but certainly sounds like a why to me. And you need a why to really put out great activations.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a why, especially when you look at the event and what we're going to dive into, giving back. So
absolutely. Okay, so customer-centric activations, right? Like this is something that I just cannot stress enough to everybody. Too often people think that they're putting out activations, events, and everything in event marketing that they think is customer centric, right? But like, if you really pull off customer centric sponsorships, activations, events, trade show booths, like you win all the time. They're really, when they are customer centric, they are meaningful, they are valuable, they are wow, and they create experience, which I think is sort of what everybody's going for when they do these things, Mollie. Like they're really going for that, but it does come down to like, how well do you know your customer? How well do you know this specific customer, this space that you're going into? And I think it's just something I can't stress enough. And it's something we're really going to run through today. We're going to run through how customer centric this sponsorship and these separate activations that AMEX ran at the US Open, just how customer centric they really, really were. Mollie, what was your favorite part about, these different sections and just overall American Express's sponsorship and, the activations they put on at the US Open? What was your absolute favorite part?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there's a lot there, like you just said, those 4 parts. But my favorite part about it was that fan zone experience center that they had. So that was open to everyone, I believe, and not just AMEX holders. So anyone could go
Yep.
in there that was at the US Open, that was around that specific spot. They had a really grand entrance right into it. And just from like the start, right when you walk in, when you look at the
Had a
pictures
cool
of it,
vibe. It
yeah,
just
just
attracted you.
right
It
away.
had a cool
Mhm.
vibe. Yeah. I
You
agree.
walked right in and it looked like, there's probably when you walked in, like I wasn't there, didn't see it, but I saw a ton of pictures from it. So just like there's so many different areas that looked like you could go to right when you walked in, like Fan Zone Center. Basically, when you look at it, they had activities for every single person, right? Like very family centered. I felt like
Mhm.
the specific like fan zone experience was, because when you look at it, right, like, adults obviously are Amex customers, but adults have families, adults have
Mhm.
kids,
Yep.
nieces, nephews. Tennis, the US Opens can be a family event if you want to bring your family towards. So how
And
do they target?
that's all about knowing your customer too, Molly,
Yeah.
right? Like if you're going to know your
Hmm.
customer, like are they family oriented people? Like there are some
Right.
customers that are just not specifically, it's not a big thing, but for this one,
Yeah.
I think you nailed it. Like it is
Right.
people bring their kids to the US Open. You know what I mean? There is a major facet of the US Open
Right.
where people bring their kids. So
That
excellent
is.
that Amex really
Yeah.
saw that.
Right. And that's why I feel like one of like the four elements that you had just talked about, the fan experience zone is like super centered around children, kids, family activities that everyone can do and adults, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
ton of like, I think they had like air hockey in there, like a tennis ball connect four, right? Adults can definitely get in there and get competitive. Um,
I love the glow tennis. Those
the glow,
they
yes.
it had those big platform, like these small little tennis courts, almost look like pickleball courts, and like the flooring of them were lit up. It was called glow
Yeah.
tennis. They called. I thought that was so cool, and it was very centrally located. So
Hmm.
I could just see, like I have kids, so I could just see going in
Yeah.
there with kids, and like they would just be a magnet to it. Like, what's that?
Yeah.
What's this? It
Right.
just looks cool, you know.
Right, do it. Yeah, yeah. And then they even had like a crane for like prizes. I think they were giving out like little radios too that you could listen to the different tennis matches going on. So that was
Yeah.
really cool, like a little free giveaway that you got there. They just had a lot of different, like you said, like arcade style games, like right, the tennis ball
Mm-hmm.
Connect Four, the glow tennis. They even had like a product demo area that they sponsored with Wilson
Oh
for
yeah.
all like tennis players there. So it was just
Yep.
like, I mean, this huge environment, lots of different things going on there. About, and it really ties back to like being family oriented. You take your kids there, they can just go and play. You can keep an eye
Mm-hmm.
on them, watch it, and just kind of hang out. And it was a great spot. I feel like they're really tied into, they thought about everyone and then what they're going to be able to do. It seems like these activities that we just described were activities that actually they thought through, right? What are
Yeah.
people actually going to come there and actually do, right? What are kids going to
Mm.
engage with? What do they want to engage with, right? Like the glow tennis. What if they didn't have that glow and like the floor
Yeah.
light up and all of that, right?
I
It's
saw the
not,
Connect Four. So they had Connect Four, but with tennis
yep,
balls. So just little things that like that kids are gonna do, and just recognizing, look, huge event, big sponsorship,
yeah,
but this experience center, it felt to me like a place you
hmm,
could walk in with your family and literally go get an experience and
yeah,
go enjoy something outside of the not outside of the US Open, but like you're at the US Open. But other than just watching tennis and getting some food and some drink, like you went and go did something with your
hmm,
kids, which I think is
right,
really, really functional and very engaging and something that's memorable if a kid has an incredible time in there. As the parent buying the tickets, you're like, oh, I got to go back,
yeah, right,
and it's
yeah.
given
And
you
I
by
know that
Amex.
you had said they bring like sponsors, year after year, right? Or would you say they started the
Since the late
sponsorship in
70s. They've been
late
sponsoring since the
70s?
late
Yeah,
70s. They've been sponsoring, which I
wild.
think is great.
Yeah.
Was there anything in that, like there was a lot in the fan experience center? Was there anything in there that maybe you thought was just like very unique, very different, kind of like a subtle, cool thing that really hit?
It did, yeah. Well, there's actually two things. So like the Connect Four, they did it with tennis balls, right? So when you think
Mm,
about it, though,
yeah.
had to be a customized Connect Four thing and tennis balls, right? That ties back into like the US Open. And
Yeah.
I love it. That was not regular coins or whatever that they use.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that they also had in the fan experience, which was totally different from like the mentality of sports and all of that, was they had like a nail center where they would
Yeah.
paint
Okay. Yep.
girls, women's nails for free. So I
Mm.
feel like they called it nail art and they had like estheticians there that were actually painting the nails and you could come up and it was free. And I just honestly, to me, that was my favorite part. I loved it. I thought it was like such
Yeah,
like
it's
a
cool.
different thought process above that. They're covering themselves in the whole entire space about like
Yeah.
who's going to be there, right? Like your daughter might not want to go and do any of the arcade games, right? But they want to go sit down and get their nails done. So you can do that. And then,
Yeah.
like if I didn't have my nails done, maybe I'd go and do that. So I just feel like it was a great area that they was just totally different that I haven't not seen involved into like a sports activation because they're thinking of a different route, right? Go
Yeah.
back to,
It's very
what
niche
are
in
people
that
going to do?
sense. Very
Like, so
niche
that
of
was just a
thinking like
great
who's going to be
detail.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
No,
I love that.
that's a really good one. I think the fan experience center is very cool. It's very large. It had a ton
Yeah.
going on. You could get drinks in there. You could get food in there. You could play tennis in there. You could play
Hmm.
globe ping pong, everything in there. Such a cool
Yeah.
place to take. It did seem to me from all the pictures and everything that I saw and all the write-ups that I read that literally there's like a lot of families in there, and like that's
Yeah.
where you go. Like I know with my family when we go to like baseball games and different things like that, like the game sometimes is an afterthought, but
Right.
for me it's
Yeah.
great to have the kids be able to go there and go do
Hmm.
something like that. It's valuable, and as a parent it makes me want to go back because
Yeah.
it has
Right.
something
Exactly.
else for them other than then like walking them into a tennis match and then being like, I don't really know if I want to go watch a tennis match again, but I'll go to
Yeah.
that fan experience
Go back.
center.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so two things I want to touch on really quickly. I am just a huge believer that when you're putting on these activations, these sponsorships, you're building something out for your audience and fan, if you can find a way to relay it back to your mission or set values, I
Mhm.
think that is just awesome, right? Like we reviewed the Gymshark brand activation a couple weeks back, and essentially it was very mission driven, way more so than this one. It was just mission heavy. Everything was like this mission and this value of family, men's mental health, things of that nature. But AMEX mission is provide the world's best customer experience every day. Now, I'm not saying that they factored this in when they did it, but across the board, as we start to dive into the experience center, the lounges, every piece of this sounds like it's what they're trying to do. And essentially, like, that's a thought process when they put something on it at the scale of this. Now, I think they have 6 values, but 3 of them really hit for me. One was we deliver for our customers, right? So if you're a customer of Amex and you're showing up to the US Open, they're going to deliver for you. And they did tons of perks, tons of lounges, fan experience centers, all that stuff. 2 is we make it great. I love that one. Simple. We make it great. The third is, and I think this is probably the most important one here, we care about our communities. So I think it's real easy to think about a community as like a town or like an area. I actually think in terms of community for this, they're talking about the tennis community, right?
Yeah.
That's such talk nowadays. Community, community, community. And like runners have a community, tennis players have a community. I like to
Hmm.
golf, right? And you see on my wall back here, like
Yeah.
I'm in the golf community 100%. So I think you can certainly see some of their mission and their values tied into this, whether purposeful or not. I think they're thinking that way, which I think is a really cool, good nugget here.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because those are like their core values from their website about like credit cards and how people daily use that.
Yeah.
But then when you say it as that terms of like events and you tie it back to that, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it just makes complete sense about how it can tie back into this event that they put on for these people and how it does tie back to what they do every single day that is not throwing events, right? And it just all goes together with who they are, what they represent, and what they
Yeah.
want to give out and everything that they do. So I think that's
Yeah.
really cool.
And that goes into what we always talk about. It's like knowing your why. Like, why are you doing something, right? Well, a lot of times it ties back to your mission and your values. And if it
Yeah.
does, it can be really purposeful. It can really mean something to you. One area that I do want to jump into is the lounge. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think, like we said, there's multiple pieces to this sponsorship and activation. One is the fan experience center. 2 is the lounge. 3 is this access to tennis courts across New York City. And 4 is a partnership with Break the Love, right? So let's talk about the lounge. I put like some simple notes that I would attract me:
Yeah.
AC, air conditioning, food, booze, relax. And then I wrote the word branded. It's branded, right? I wrote exclusivity, right? Because it's like they had 2 lounges. One was for all card holders, and then they had that was on the second floor, and then on the
Mm-hmm.
fourth floor they had another lounge that was for like their like super exclusive card holders that could go up there, and everything was complimentary. Um, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, I think exclusive, right? definitely something that people are looking for when you're a cardhold member.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then,
Especially because like the two lounges are were like, right, like one lounge was like you had to be a card holder, right? So you were able to
yep,
get in that. And I think it was like the free, there was like free food in there, but then you had to pay for drinks. And then, it wasn't as exclusive as like that
yeah.
next tier, which like people, I feel like in there, like, they want that, right? They're looking for that next thing that they can go to and get free. And it's a little bit like next step up from quality.
And that kind of goes to knowing your customer. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, so inside this lounge, like a lot of people are customers of Amex because they like the perks. So the
Yeah.
lounge is a perk, right? So they have these two lounges. Let's talk about the super exclusive one. The one I think it was like one of there's like four cards that you have to be able to get into this lounge. So you're
Yeah.
going to the US Open, but you can go to this lounge. And again, you're getting a place to relax. They got TVs. You can watch the other matches in the US Open. Great food, complimentary on alcohol. But how about the immersive room with the gift in it? So
Mhm.
this I
With the
thought was,
keys, right?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
engaging, fun, different. There's a door, there's a big blue door. And then to the right of the door is like four large keys that hung on the wall. And they had a label on each key. One was for different airports. And I think at these airports is where Amex has some of their major lounges, right? Their Centurion
Yeah.
lounges, which is what this was a mirror of
Hmm.
there. So essentially, you picked a key, you went in the room, and it was this like immersive experience. It was a smallish room, almost like a very, very large closet that had a bunch of like lighting and TV screens. And based on which one you picked, it gave you kind of like a video view of what those lounges look like, what kind of perks that they offer, flying in out of those cities. And then last, boom, they hit you with a gift, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I would love to get in there. It looked like it was like an LED room with like
Yep.
lights everywhere. So it was like super engaging. And when you got in there, it was like you're leaving the lounge into like this new environment, which I thought
Mm-hmm.
was really cool because it was totally different than,
Yeah. And I mean, look, not everything needs to be like blow your top off amazing.
yeah,
But I'm thinking to myself, I'm a card holder. I'm up in this lounge. I'm having this good time. I see these keys on the wall. Why not? Right? It's kind of
yeah,
fun. It's different. I get a
hmm,
gift out of it. And it more so just cements in my mind. Like if I pull the JFK key, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking about JFK in the airport and Amex's lounge. And
yeah,
next time I'm there, I make sure I hit it because I remember that experience.
hmm,
It's
exactly.
kind of connecting the dots there. So I think one of the things that we're talking about here is being customer centric, right? When you are a brand and you are sponsoring something or you are going somewhere to create an activation or you're creating an activation and bringing people to you, they need to be customer centric, which means that you need to understand your customer. You need to deeply understand them, who they are, which segment of your customer they are. So let's do a little bit of like a customer breakdown on this and like why. I mean, American Express has been sponsoring US Open since like 1978. It's a long ass time, right?
Yeah.
So I folded in two here. One is, I think the obvious is tennis, the tennis community, right? Tennis is a little more upscale. American Express is a little more upscale, but the tennis community obviously is something that they do well with and they're very invested in, right? So they're pegging tennis people, tennis community style individuals to be their customer. And then the second one I think is interesting, which is that the US Open, it's not just a tennis tournament, it's a place to be, something to do. It's like the Kentucky Derby. It's a party. There's celebrities, Ben Stiller, Tom Cruise, Tiger Woods is there watching, Serena. It's a who's who, right?
Hmm.
So for them, a lot of those who's are their customers, and a lot of the people that are wanting to be there to be in that mix are their customers.
Yeah.
So I think it's just sounds like a perfect match to me.
Hmm. And it happens year after year too, which was something that, obviously they've been sponsoring this for a long time. People are looking forward to this. Like everyone that you're talking about, people are going there. So it's a kind of like a pop-up shop that happens every single year that they're bringing the experience to the audience that you're talking about.
Yeah, which I think is really, if you're breaking down their customer, obviously American Express has a lot of customers, but they also have a lot of they have a lot of segments almost. This is like a segment for me that they're keying
Right.
in on, that they think they have real success with. So understanding them in this space, to me, it's like American Express card holders. Like, why do you go with American Express? Right? There's a little bit of exclusivity there. There's a little bit of like an upper tier, upper bracket there.
Hmm.
Perks, benefits. The cards have tremendous benefits. I have multiple American Express cards. They have a lot of benefits,
Yeah.
right? So, and then, so now you take that and then you bleed that into everything we're talking about. I made this is like a quick list of, I mean, there's all these perks when you're there. The lounges, you get air conditioning, food. They have sunscreens, like these
Yeah.
expensive sunscreen everywhere, right? And
They
on
have
and on and
charging
on.
stations, right? And then,
Charging stations,
well,
exactly.
Matt, what was your favorite thing about this? And like, what do you think it makes, what is different about this from other events that you've seen?
The court access was really super unique, that they created this partnership with Break the Love, right? So I think I have this right. They created 10,000 free tennis court reservations. And it was like a week or two before the US Open, plus a week or two after the US Open for cardholders. And certain cardholders got like peak hours they had access to before others. So, what I think is super cool about this is knowing your customer. We go back to this customer centric, right? It's something that like they really are going to value, not something that you think is cool that they're like, I don't need that. Well,
Yeah.
finding a tennis court in New York City is hard. I mean, like it's a problem. Like if you look it
Right.
up and you do a little bit of research, like people are frustrated with a lack of tennis courts in New York City. It's difficult to get reservations. So they're solving a problem for their customer. And this problem has nothing to do with them, which I think is super cool. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's not like a
Yes.
problem that they solve with their product or something. It's like they're solving a problem by creating these reservations. And then the second piece that I love about this, we talk about this all the time with events, with sponsorships, activations, with all of this stuff. How do you create touch points before and after? How do you extend the life of the event, right?
Hmm.
Like, how do you extend your impression, your brand, your this opportunity to connect? Like, how do you extend it? And I thought this was a super unique way, right, of offering up these reservations, having 10,000 of them available, giving peak hours. It's just a super cool, like probably one of my favorite pieces of this. And I'm not even like a huge tennis player, but I just
Right.
think it's
Yeah.
cool because of it solves a problem and it extends the life of the event, which I thought was great.
It does. And it kind of goes back to like it being a perk. And then I'd wonder how
Yeah.
fast those reservations went because, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to get the reservations there. I think it is super interesting and it does extend past the event. It's
It really
awesome.
does. And like I put this little note here. It's like membership, perks, exclusivity. Like this is what the customer expects when you're with American Express. So it's like knowing your customer. A
Mhm.
lot of the stuff that they did in these spaces did offer exclusivity because you needed to be a card member, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then they offered a lot of different perks throughout this. Like they had an area where you could leave your bag when you got there. It's a pain in the ass to tote stuff around when you're at an event, you know?
Yeah. It is.
They had merchandise. You could go shopping there. You use an American Express card, you get a discount. Nothing like earth shattering that you haven't seen before, but like just perks and exclusivity. So to me, in this like customer journey of creating something for them, everything makes sense. It all
Mhm.
lines up. Nothing's out of place. Nothing is odd. Nothing. It all stems from like, why are we here? Right? Go back. Elevating fan experience. I think they did that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
that
agree.
experience center for everybody. They said they're elevating fan experience and providing unique exclusive benefits to its card members. So it's like you're a card member and you get points and benefits in hotels and lounges at airports. Oh, but by the way, when you go to the US Open, this is what's afforded to you because you're an American Express member.
Right. No,
I
it's
think it's
great. And then I saw that you could bring, depending on like what card you had, you could bring up to two guest or seven guest. And I think
mm,
it's great because then if you're bringing guests, right? Like if you don't
trying
have
to
any
create some
friends at
jealousy,
AMEX, oh yeah,
trying to
hell
make
yeah,
my friends
because
jealous. Yeah,
yeah,
no,
I'd be
I
like,
was
oh my
kidding.
God, I need to get one of these so I can bring my other friends or my family, whoever. It's like if you don't have a card, you got to bring your, how many specific guests, which also led to showing other people that might not have the Amex what the perks can be and how this event really gave back to the customers, and that, they're not just trying to sell you their credit card. They're trying to create a whole, like you said, community back to this. And how do you do that is by creating these types of events and giving back to their customers without like forcing you to sign up for anything, right? Like nowhere here in this event do they have places that you could sign up for it. Not that I saw on there, right?
Yeah.
There could have been, but
They're
it
not in
didn't
your
seem
face
like,
about it.
no, it's not a sales pitch. It's not anything
Yeah.
that they're like, hey, sign up for the card. You can do this if you sign up or if you put your email in here. It was just seemed like they created a space for everyone by creating brand like love and just showing it. I just felt like overall it was like really like elaborate, classy, engaging, exclusive event from everything.
Yeah. No, I think those are really elaborate class. Yeah. I mean, like engaging,
Yeah.
like when you put those together, we say this all the time. Like when we talk about this stuff is like, people want these things when they talk about their events, when they talk about these grandiose ideas and what they're going to do. But like, you need a foundation. Like this stuff has to come from somewhere. There's very experienced people at American Express doing this work. Very experienced people. So it's like, I kind of challenge everybody listening to this to say like, maybe you're not as experienced. Maybe you don't have the budget of American Express. Maybe you're not sponsoring the US Open. I mean, there's a lot of money spent. You do this, right? But what can you take away and what can you apply to do successful activations, smaller sponsorships to create the brand affinity, to create the feeling that a card member is getting when they tell their friend, like, man, we're going to go into the Centurion Lounge. We're going to go get some Moscow mules, hang out and go watch this match. We're going to get some air conditioning, some food. And your friend's like, damn, that's pretty great. As a card holder, like that's got to be a pretty good feeling. And you're like, oh, that's American Express. Like you have to be able to replicate that for people. So I think like, as you're listening to this, it's all, in my opinion, it's all about the foundation of how you're doing stuff. Like, why are you doing this? Right? They're trying to elevate fan experience and they're trying to create unique, exclusive benefits. That's what they want. And those benefits and exclusivity ties right back to their card. It makes sense. They're not trying to do something that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It's not like they have some initiative where they're trying to get you, where they're trying to get you for something in terms of travel. Like that's not what they're talking about. And yes, they have tons of travel stuff, but that's not really what they're after here. They're being very specific. So it ties back. And then it seems they have a very good grip on who their customer is. Like, we pointed out about the fan experience center, I mean, with the kids and just kind of just the whole atmosphere, the lounge for the adults, the tennis court reservations and the value that they provide. So it's like, I just urge people, like, really go through the exercises. If you're thinking of doing this stuff, go through the exercise, understand why you're doing something, really know your customer, jot down that segment, what they want, why they're there. Can you solve a problem of theirs? I mean, they're solving a problem here with tennis court reservations. I love that.
Yeah.
God, it's so smart.
Right. And like you said, it has nothing to do with Amex directly, but it's about the customer and they're giving it back to them. I think it's great.
Yeah. I guess I'd say like closing thoughts. Do you have any closing thoughts? Do you have anything like, as we're kind of rolling through this, that maybe's kind of like dawned on you or something that, kind of just, hit you like a sack of bricks?
Yeah. I just think like, as we talked through it, right? Like about how they really just thought about the customer and like their audience and like, what are people going to go there and do? What's actually makes sense, right? Like all of these different ideas that they had in the fan zone and then to the lounge, right? Like the lounge is more specific to adults that don't have kids or, not bring your kids there. So it's all these thought processes behind like what activities are actually going to stick and what is not, right? Like, there's going to be a lot of bad ideas and then there's going to be a lot of good ideas. So really thinking through what is actually going to work for your event, because to your point, like the US Open it's like I said, elaborate event, right? Not everyone's going to be able to do that. So how do you tie back to like your event and like what are people actually going to engage with and what are people going to do? It's really brainstorming and thinking that strategy and like you said, kind of like back to your why and the goals and your brand.
Yeah, I think what that makes me think of as you say that, right, is like, are you retooling every single year? So it's
Right.
like ideas are great. And, I mean, they've been doing this since however long. Like, I'll bet you if they go back over the lineage of the last
Hmm.
10 years, like, okay, so you have these ideas. You're never going to get it perfect. Nothing's ever going to be, I mean, just unreal and ideal in every facet. But like, are
Right.
you there watching the interaction? Are you watching the kids be like, you know what,
Hmm.
that glow tennis sucked. Like, we're not doing
Yeah,
that next year.
exactly.
Here's where people gravitated. For example, with the tailgates that we run, right? Like, we essentially notice that people are gravitating towards these games, these
Yes.
tailgate
Right.
style games,
Hmm.
right? So you have all these facets: food, drink, band, music, all these things. It's like you have to watch people. So are you retooling every year and trying to make it a little bit better? And it should be based, what gets better should be based on where the people go, how you see the interaction, where they spend the most time, what is their demand for, and then you double down on it, because essentially
Right.
your
Exactly.
customers telling you where the experience should go. So that's what it kind of makes me think. So
Yeah.
I'll give like some closing thoughts on this. Is one of the things that I thought that they did really well here was they absolutely married and tied Amex to tennis. Like, if you just go online and you look this up, it is like absolutely,
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt, unequivocally ties American Express to tennis, right? So, people love tennis. Amex loves tennis. Like, that's what I got. Like, people do love tennis. They're a
Right.
community of people, and
Mhm.
these people are their customer. So it's kind of tying them all together. They solved the problem for their client. They built experience for their client. They branded themselves with tennis everywhere. I mean, they have things up on the wall. It says tennis is epic with Amex, was everywhere.
Yeah.
Game, set, connect with Amex was everywhere. We talked about in simple, like, you talk little details. I see these little details because I appreciate them. When you're sitting in that lounge of theirs, well, they have this big beautiful wall with a TV built in, and part of that wall is like tennis rackets. It almost looks like three-dimensional tennis rackets built into the wall. It's just beautiful, right? So I just thought they did a great job. Like, these people love tennis people, the tennis community, the people showing up to a US Open, they love tennis. And to me, Amex just did a great job. You want to be customer centric. We talk about putting on customer centric, means that you're doing stuff that the customer deems to be valuable, deems to be it's meaningful to them,
Hmm.
right? Like, you're giving them something that is meaningful. They're wowed and they're brought through an experience. So tying those things and putting that bow on it is like, when I saw this, I wasn't even there, but I will forever tie American Express with the US Open. And funny enough, I've never been to the US Open. So why would I tie American Express to tennis? I really wouldn't.
Right.
Now I would, because we did this breakdown. So I can imagine if I'm an attendee and I go and I'm a card holder, I don't know. I feel like you're going to tie American Express to tennis.
Hmm.
That was a cool breakdown. It's a lot. There's there's different sections and things in there. I hope we were able to kind of run through our thoughts with everybody on like why we thought this was successful. Hopefully be able to give you like things that you can take and nuggets you can pull from this that you can then go apply in creating your own activations and understanding why big ones like this and companies like American Express are having such success. Like, they would not be sponsoring the US Open for 30 some odd years, 50 years,
Hmm.
if they did not have success. So they're doing something right here, right? There's a return, there's a brand affinity, there's a connection, there's something that's being made. So I hope everybody really enjoyed that walkthrough. I appreciate everybody being here, right? That's a wrap for today. It's show number 3 with Event Marketing Redefined. And we're on a mission to teach brands how to create meaningful experiences that generate revenue and build brand affinity. And I hope we did that today. So thank you everybody for showing up. We appreciate it.